Professor Anwar Osseyran. He is the director of SURFsara, which is an organization in the Netherlands. I will let him explain it. I never really fully understood it, but it is my equivalent in the Netherlands. And but Anwar is very important to CSCS. He was the leading figure and the chair of the advisory board of CSCS. So when I first arrived, he made sure I had a meeting with him and he would give me advice that was very important over the years. And the thing that makes me most happy now, since June this year, Anwar is also the chair of the Council of PRACE. PRACE is a European organization for advanced computing. CSCS has been playing a rather small role in this organization over the year, and I can talk to you about why we played a small role later or on the side. But since we had the most performant supercomputer in Europe since 2013, we've been asked a lot of questions why we have not played a bigger profile. And in fact, when we had the inauguration of Pete Stein in March 2014, the then chair of the council was visiting us here and trying to convince us to play a more important role. So we've been working very hard for 2 years to shape up the European organization, and I think we've made a lot of progress under your leadership since June, much more than in the past 2 years. And we are very happy about this, and I can announce that we have committed to really move part of our user program into PRACE. So the high-end side of our user program will be moved and coordinated with the other European centers. This will bring a big advantage to the Swiss scientists, because they now have different architectures that they can work on. And it is tradition in research infrastructures. So for example, Paul Scherrer Institute, also there are collaborations across Europe and internationally. And so Switzerland will be a member of the hosting sites of PRACE. And but we have still to work on that, because we want to make sure Europe comes to our quality level. And well, I will even say this in a European context. We have, and I mean quality by the scientists. I don't mean the data center itself. I really mean the scientists. Sorry? That's very important to us, that we keep that. But I'm sure under your leadership we'll have that, that done. Yeah, thank you.
You are very kind, Thomas. I think Thomas took half of my time and of my speech as well. And as much as I would have loved to, I cannot make my speech in Italian. I was able to follow the Italian speeches, and I must say to you, I was really thrilled. So the only thing that I would like to say is grazie mille, Thomas, for your kind introduction. In fact, Thomas was telling us about my organization. I was asked, where do you work? And then I said to the person to whom I was talking to, I said, I work at the CSCS of the Netherlands. And I saw in his eyes, oh, did CSCS start a branch in the Netherlands? So, who knows? Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a great pleasure and honor for me, as the chair of CSCS Advisory Board and the chair of PRACE, Partnership for Advanced Computing in Europe, to address you, your distinguished audience and honorable guests at the occasion of the 25th anniversary of CSCS. I have had the privilege and the pleasure to be able to follow closely the developments of CSCS in more than half of its existence. And I would like to sincerely congratulate you all, congratulate the local government, the federal government, ETH, and CSCS with the great achievements of past years. As many of us know, and those things were mentioned, in fact, in the former speeches, those achievements were not low-hanging fruit, but the result of blood, sweat, and tears, given the complex environment in which CSCS has been operating. Given the fact that I was invited here to give a speech, I did also my homework and started digging into the history of CSCS. So I looked into the ETH web archives, and it gives me an interesting and, a quite frank overview of the circumstances that led to the establishment of CSCS 25 years ago. So the main objective was to cope with the growing needs of computational scientists in Switzerland, and up to that time, I read, so I quote, scientists could only use a second-hand Cray at EPFL. It is written in the, it is not my statement, it is in the archives of ETH Zurich. The ETH was assigned to set up a brand new national supercomputing center, and instead of locating the supercomputer in a basement room in ETH Zurich, which you would expect, the center was established in Ticino. The archives mention transparently different opinions for choosing manner. And don't quote me on this, it is in the archives. I thought twice whether I should include this in my speech or not. But I don't take any responsibility for this because it is in the archives. One is that the ETH itself had literally sent the computer into the desert. I heard it this morning. It was sent this morning. And another argued that the former federal councillor, Flavio Cotti, unfortunately is not here anymore, insisted on placing the future center in Italian-speaking southern Switzerland. Okay, so in fact, the challenge was not only to build a supercomputer center from scratch in a rather remote area of the Federation, but to match the high level of expectations set in 1991. How to cope with the shortage of computer scientists, and at the same time to satisfy the rapidly growing needs of a diverse and highly exigent scientific community. And to do this within the limited budget allocated to the center. And we all know we are still confronted with the same problems today. So CSCS had to work hard on attracting computer talents from all over the world and to cooperate closely with scientists in Switzerland and abroad. The approach was federative, collaborative, and eventually successful. We can all learn from it in Europe, and I call it the Swiss approach. 1991 did not only mark the birth in Switzerland of the center operating the largest supercomputer in Europe today, but also, as you know, the 700 years celebration of its own existence. Switzerland's democratic structure evolved slowly since its birth in 1291 and was an inspiration for social upheaval among the peasants of the region before the French Revolution. The peasants tried to learn evil tricks from the Swiss and become their own lords. Lines from a German song in 1525 in the middle of popular uprisings of late medieval times. This gradual evolution of decentralized federation is continuing now across borders in Europe and the rest of the world, as globalization is gaining momentum and economic, cultural, and political borders are getting blurred by the internet. So, collaborative, decentralized, federative, and participatory approach is now at the center of solving many complex social, economic, and industrial challenges in areas like environment, security, healthcare, energy, and I add transportation to this. So, the Swiss democratization of supercomputing across researchers and scientific communities not only in Switzerland, but also abroad, is today serving as an example within PRAISE, helping to empower scientific excellence across Europe and fighting against nationalism, protectionism, and bureaucracy. Today, there is no Dutch, Swiss, or German science. But the challenge is to have a strong Dutch, Swiss, or German participation in the European and global scientific community. The Swiss federative, collaborative, and participatory approach is therefore a good model to adopt in that prospect. And that's why Thomas already disclosed half of my speech when he introduced me. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to see that Switzerland has become one of the main hosting members within PRAISE, and that Thomas Schultes is now one of the most influential members of the PRAISE Council. It is my great pleasure to congratulate the federal government, the local government, ETH Zurich, Professor Thomas Schultes, and Marie-Christine Solly, and all the other directors before for the 25 years anniversary of CSCS. And also, most important, to congratulate the researchers and the users of CSCS with the upcoming scientific discoveries, publications, patents, and who knows, Nobel Prizes. Thank you.